SpaceX will have to wait until Friday for another attempt to launch its rocket to the International Space Station. The mission was scrubbed early this morning after some technical trouble. SpaceX also wants to recover and reuse the rocket for future missions. Derek Pitts is an astronomer and the planetarium director for the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. Derek, I'm so excited to talk about this. We were watching this morning when they said mission scrubbed.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, what happened is in the second stage rocket motor, a little valve that controls in which direction the thrust is directed failed during the pre-launch testing. And they need to have that they need to have that controller actually working because they want to be able to direct the rocket by directing the thrust a different way. So if that doesn't work, then that means they have to wait until they can get it fixed.
Let's talk about how critical this mission was, because last year we all saw the Orbital Science's failure of that rocket. This was a mission, this SpaceX mission is to resupply the space station. So how important is this particular mission?
Well, resupply missions are always important because they're carrying both supplies and experiments and all sorts of things like that that the astronauts would love to have. But we also have to remember a couple of things. One is that the astronauts are actually outfitted with supplies for at least 6 months ahead. So if this mission doesn't leave today, if it leaves another month from now, that's fine.
So we know they're going to try again on Friday morning. If that launch is successful, if everything goes according to plan, what is next here for SpaceX?
So what's next for SpaceX is if they can accomplish this task of getting the soft landing on the remote-controlled barge in the Atlantic Ocean, that'll be proof of a concept that they can do this kind of recapture and renovation and then reusability of these launch boosters. But then the next thing they really want to go for is they want to get their certification of their Dragon capsule for crews to be delivered from Earth's surface up to low Earth orbit. They want to be able to carry astronauts up to low Earth orbit, and that's really their next big step and their big deal. If they can accomplish that, then they really will have gone a long way to shifting a lot of that burden of the lighter work, if you will, of NASA over to private corporations to be able to do these little things like resupply and astronaut delivery to space station.
I think a lot of us, though, are still so accustomed to NASA and hearing, the NASA voices, and the notion of privatization for some people is concerning. How worried should they be, or how concerned are people? Because it wasn't just the Orbital Sciences failure. There was also the Virgin Galactic incident as well. For people who say, we're not sure that this can work, you say,
well, we have to remember that all of these different private services, as you said, are in their testing phase. Can they accomplish these tests that NASA used to do? But we also have to keep in mind that it took NASA a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of time to get to a reliable launch system. And that's exactly where these private companies are right now, the same place, except they're making their advances much faster than NASA did because they actually have all of what NASA learned behind them to be able to make this happen quickly. Now, as far as whether or not this is something that people can really grab a hold of as far as understanding why private companies are doing this rather than NASA, we have to think about NASA as turning into a space agency of the 21st century rather than being of the 1960s and 70s and 80s. And that means what they can do is what they should do is outsource. They should outsource the easy things, quote unquote easy, to the private companies so that NASA can go on and do the really big stuff. Going back to the moon, going on to Mars, exploring the deep solar system with manned missions possibly.
All right, we know you'll be watching on Friday.
I will.
Big party?
Absolutely.
All right, Derek Pitts, thank you so much.
Thanks, Elaine.